It's been raining heavily, and John walked into an alley where one of Bowery King's spies reminded him that time was running out. John swiftly heads out and hops into a taxi, only to be faced with gridlocked roads. Since time is running out of his hands, he gives the cabbie a gold coin and gives him the responsibility of safely getting his dog to the Continental Hotel. He swiftly gets off and starts running towards the New York Public Library. When John eventually reached the library, the staff directed him to level 2 to find the appropriate book. John recovers the book and discovers a secret compartment beneath it that contains priceless objects such as coins, a marker, a cross, and a photograph of his wife. At that moment, a tall guy named Ernest corners him.
I still have time.
It's almost up. Who's gonna know the difference?
Ernest stabbed him with a knife, but John immediately disarmed him with the help of a book. John eventually gets rid of Ernest by breaking his jaw with the book. Since John got injured in the brawl, he promptly visited the doctor. John insists on the treatment because there are still 5 minutes remaining. As a result, the doctor agrees and begins the treatment right away. The doctor abruptly stops stitching as time runs out. John's excommunicado status has been activated now. After stitching himself up, upon the doctor's request, John shoots him twice to convince the high table that the doctor has honored the excommunicado status. Every assassin in the entire city is dying to reclaim the $14 million bounty. Several assassins followed John as he left the clinic, so he fled and barricaded himself in an old-fashioned gun store. John swiftly disposes of them all with antique weapons. As he heads out, more fans of John show up and try to take him down. However, John is a ruthless, cold-blooded killer, and as a result, he disposed of all of them in horse stables. Meanwhile, the bounty on John's head has increased from $14 to $15 million. John understands that he can't win this war, so he heads to the theater to meet the director, Ruska Roma. He showed them the cross and entered the theater. Upon meeting with her, he presents the cross and demands safe passage to Casablanca, as John once used to be one of them. Roma argued that helping him would be treason, and the high table would take severe action against her. John states she is bound to help him, so she agrees to help, severing all connections and branding him with a cross. On the other side, an adjudicator paid a visit to the Continental Hotel to meet Winston. Upon meeting, the adjudicator demands Winston's resignation within the week because the blood has been spilled on Continental ground, and Winston had given John an hour to escape.
Let me be clear, I am here to adjudge you.
Right after, the adjudicator met with Bowery King and gave him an ultimatum to relinquish his position and depart town within 7 days because he had given John the gun with the intention of using it to execute Santino. Upon hearing her demands, Bowery King laughs loudly and declares that he is the throne and cannot be overthrown.
Do not make the mistake of thinking you exist outside the rules.
Upon arriving at the Casablanca, John was attacked by 3 assassins. During the knife brawl, John disposes of one man. In the meantime, a strange man emerges and breaks up the fight by claiming the manager has granted John an amnesty. However, one of the attackers becomes greedy to earn a $15 million bounty, attempting to kill John, but the mysterious man quickly knocks him out. He then accompanied John to the Continental Hotel. Sophia shot John as she emerged from the darkness, but was spared, thanks to his bulletproof suit. Sophia admits she ought to kill him. However, he gives her a marker, which binds Sophia to repay a debt she owes him for rescuing her daughter years earlier. Sophia had no choice but to agree to honor the marker. On the other side, the adjudicator pays a visit to the Japanese eatery and recruits an assassin named Zero to get revenge on those who support John after becoming aware of the repercussions of defying the high table.
I have served. I will be of service.
While the director was watching the performance, Zero and his students attacked and encircled the theater by getting rid of all the guards. Roma stated John had a ticket, and she felt compelled to assist him. The adjudicator reminded her that it violated her agreement with the high table, and the ticket did not stand above the high table. The adjudicator instructed Roma that her penance had to be given in blood. Roma agrees to her fealty, and Zero quickly runs his blade through both of her hands before departing with the adjudicator. Let's get back to John. While Sophia was hiding the firearm inside the dog's vest, John stated he only wanted to speak with Barada. However, Sophia was well aware of John's tendency for misfortune to follow him wherever he went. They headed to Barada's mansion to meet him. Barada questioned about the reason for John's visit. John asserted that he desired an apology from the elder, who was seated above the high table. Barada stated that he did not know his precise location, but he could find the elder roaming in the desert until he could no longer move around. If John was lucky, the elder would locate him. The information doesn't come without a price. As a result, Barada desired one of Sophia's pets as a gift. Since Sophia is unwilling to gift her lovely dog, Barada considers this disrespectful and shoots the dog. Fortunately, the dog survives due to a bulletproof vest. However, Sophia loses patience, and despite John's warning not to create a fuss, she shoots Barada, but he survives, leading to a massive brawl. John and Sophia get rid of most of the guards with the help of dogs and exit the fortress. Sophia then transports John into the desert. John marked the marker because her obligation had been paid. Before leaving him alone, Sophia reminds John that his demise is certain and he can't escape it. John set out into the bright desert, walking ceaselessly across dunes of sand over a day and night without drink or food before fainting to the ground. The deadline to abdicate his throne has been passed. Zero and his students attacked Bowery King's castle by eliminating all of Bowery King's men reached the rooftop where Bowery King was waiting in the heavy rain. Upon seeing the adjudicator, Bowery King showed a willingness to fealty to the high table. However, the adjudicator determined that time had passed, and she penalized him with 7 severe wounds. Hence, Zero carried out the adjudicator's directives without delay, causing Bowery King to collapse to the ground. When John became conscious, the elder offered him a drink and inquired why he wanted to live. John responded that he wished to commemorate his loving late wife, Helen. The elder gave him a choice. He either died in the wilderness or spent the rest of his life working for the high table, and in order to undo the excommunicado, he must remove Winston. John accepts this deal, cutting off his wedding ring finger as a sign of loyalty and giving the ring to the elder. He acknowledges his faithful gesture. 2 assassins pursued as John returned to New York, but Zero's students defeated them. They gathered John and brought him in front of Zero. When Zero and John were about to engage in knife combat, a group of school children walking by interrupted them both. John used this opportunity to flee. As John headed out, 2 motorcyclists attacked him, but he managed to overcome them and flee on one of the attackers' motorcycles. Zero chases him with his students. John easily defeated Zero's student on his trip to the Continental Hotel, but their motorcycle crashed near the hotel. When Zero was going to kill John, he placed his hand on the Continental stair, and Zero could not eliminate him due to the Continental's severe standards. Winston was already aware of the reason for John's visit, so he came right to the point, handed him a firearm, and said that he had chosen to be shot by a friend rather than an opponent. However, if he did, he would sell his soul to serve at the high table as Baba Yaga. Winston further asked him how he wished to be remembered. A guy who loved his wife, or Baba Yaga? At that moment, the adjudicator appeared and questioned both of them individually. Winston refused to step down, and John refused to dispose of Winston. As a result, the adjudicator pronounced the Continental Hotel deconsecrated. This implies that John and Winston are the prime targets and that business can be done on Continental territory. She then shared this news with Zero and informed him that the elite assassin force would join them shortly.
Are services still off limits to me?
Winston and Sharon escorted John to the armory, where Sharon informed John about the upgrades to the new body armor. Sharon encouraged John to use high-caliber ammunition. Winston barricaded himself in the armory, and a few loyal comrades accompanied John and Sharon as they battled the elite assassin squad. Winston's devoted allies lost their lives in battle as a result of the elite assassin squad's formidable body armor. Sharon and John narrowly survived and returned to the armory to retrieve an armor-piercing shotgun.
12-gauge steel slugs. Armor-piercing.
Meanwhile, the adjudicator phoned Winston and asked how long he believed he could keep the defense up. Instead of responding, Winston hung up the phone. Sharon and John easily defeated the elite assassin squad because of their better weaponry. While fighting the elite assassin squad, John was going to be shot by an assassin. Fortunately, Zero knocked him down and saved John's life since he wanted to defeat John personally. John then charged forward with full might, defeating all of Zero's disciples. The adjudicator phoned again, and she sounded a bit concerned this time. Winston agreed with her suggestion that a parley would be appropriate, given their shared interests. On the other hand, John efficiently defeats the overwhelmingly skilled assassin, Zero. They gathered on the rooftop, and the adjudicator became arrogant and reminded Winston that this was just the first wave and there would be more. Winston declared he might retake the Continental Hotel, and his connections extend beyond this building. At that moment, John arrives on the rooftop and notices Winston repledging his loyalty to the high table. As a result, the adjudicator reinstates the Continental Hotel and Winston's position as manager as well, but she is adamant about prosecuting John. John is quickly shot multiple times by Winston, which causes him to fall off the roof and hit other buildings, lessening his damage from the fall. However, John was fortunate enough to survive. The adjudicator is delighted with Winston's actions and departs. The adjudicator wants to witness John's passing personally, therefore, she enters the alley and learns John isn't there. She quickly returns to the hotel and demands Winston take care of the problem since she does not want John to visit them in the middle of the night. Winston consented to make the necessary arrangements. It turned out one of the Bowery King's spies loaded John on the cart and delivered him to the Bowery King. Both enthusiastically decide to take down the high table. The final chapter begins by revealing that John is working to rebuild his physical fitness after recuperating from significant injuries. Meanwhile, the Bowery King appears to gift John with a new custom-made suit and asks whether he is prepared to avenge. John enthusiastically replied, "Yeah." Shortly after, John is shown hunting the Elder's troops in the desert. John eventually met the elder and requested his wedding ring and freedom. In response, the elder said that the ring had vanished and that he would not win his freedom by killing him. The elder further warns that John won't be able to experience freedom or serenity until he dies. Upon hearing this, John gets agitated and puts bullets in the elder's skull. Meanwhile, the Harbinger visited the Continental Hotel New York. He informed Winton that the hotel had been condemned on Marquis' orders, as the decree had been signed by 12 members of the High Table, giving Marquis the authority to carry it out. The Harbinger indicated they had 1 hour to meet Marquis and evacuate the hotel. Right after, Winston and Sharon meet Marquis. He blamed Winston for his failure to kill John, and as a result, John killed Elder. Winston claimed he did shoot him. Marquis states that he's still alive and polluting everything he touches. Once the last particles of sand fell, the Continental Hotel was blown up and buried in the ground. Marquis declared him excommunicado and put a bullet in Sharon's chest instead of Winston as a reminder of his failure and punishment.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
Then, the scene shifts to a highly skilled professional blind assassin named Kane, who Marquis summons. He assigned him the responsibility of knocking out John. Kane claims he has retired. Marquis reminds him that he can be summoned to complete tasks at any time, and if he refuses, his darling daughter will suffer the consequences. Kane had no choice but to accept the instruction. Kane also noted that John had few friends left, and he knew exactly where to begin. Meanwhile, a tracker traveled to the Osaka Continental Hotel in search of John, hoping to earn an $18 million bounty. Shimazu, a dearest friend of John's, manages the hotel, while his daughter Akira serves as the concierge. While walking, Akira expressed anxiety about her father's ties to John. Her father, Shimazu, insisted that they had done nothing to upset the High Table. Akira claims that the High Table will view this as treason. Shimazu assures her that everything will be taken care of. Shimazu then headed to the rooftop and met with John. He informed John they took the elder's revenge by demolishing Continental Hotel New York and executing Sharon.
The table will never stop.
Meanwhile, Marquis' men surrounded the hotel, and Chitty inquired about the manager from Akira. She asked him to wait in the lobby and headed straight to the rooftop to alert her father because she already knew the purpose of their visit. Upon seeing John there, Akira was astonished.
Mr. Wick is our guest.
Shimazu urged her to stay with John and stepped away to deal with the matter. Before heading downstairs, Shimazu instructs his soldiers to prepare for the combat. Shimazu greeted Chitty upon arrival at the reception. He accuses the Continental Hotel of providing John with sanctuary and requests full search access. Shimazu states it is a serious accusation and requests that they surrender their firearms in order to have full access to the hotel as per rules.
Don't repeat the mistake that fool in New York made.
Kane interrupts and advises Shimazu not to do this. Chitty breaks the argument by stating that the hotel has been deconsecrated. Shimazu swiftly turned off the light, and his archer force unexpectedly assaulted them. A tremendous battle commences, with Shimazu's team winning the opening round. However, the victory doesn't last for long. Suddenly, an elite squad emerges, and Shimazu orders his warriors to retreat. Soon, John and Akira are attacked by the elite squad on the rooftop. Akira is an outstanding fighter, so she forms a team with John and knocks out the majority of them together. As we all know, John is an expert at disposing of people, therefore, he does it skillfully. Kane, on the other hand, although blind, displayed his incredible ability by skillfully setting up sensor bell traps to annihilate Shimazu's people. During the fight, Akira was shot and suffered serious injuries. Fortunately, Shimazu arrived on time and rescued her. Meanwhile, John arrived and assisted them in removing the invaders. Before leaving with his daughter, Shimazu instructed John to exit the same way he had entered. John eventually met with Kane, and they began fighting each other like professionals. They did their best to eliminate one another. During the ruthless fight with Kane, John gets stuck, but suddenly, the tracker shows up and helps John get away. Meanwhile, the bounty on John's head has been increased from $18 to $20 million. As John came outside, he encountered more attackers, but managed to get rid of them easily. At that moment, the tracker emerged and eliminated the attacker from behind John. The tracker allowed John to survive because a reward of $20 million was insufficient. On the other hand, while escaping from the hotel, Akira and Shimazu are caught by the blind man. Kane offers to spare Shimazu's life if he discloses John's whereabouts. Shimazu declined the offer since he didn't want to betray John. As a result, they fight with each other, and Kane eventually finishes Shimazu. When Akira tries to pick up the sword to kill Kane, he advises her not to do it and urges her to depart. Akira acted on the advice and left swiftly. Akira headed straight to the train station, met John on the train, and blamed him for her father's passing. She requests John to finish Kane, or she will do it herself. Winston meets Bowery King in New York and requests him to arrange a meeting with John. Winston is reminded by Bowery King that his previous encounter with John wasn't pleasant. Winston stated he had no choice back then but now knows what to do. Subsequently, Harbinger cautions Marquis that the Osaka bloodbath wasn't necessary. The Marquis asserted that it was imperative to dismantle John's notion and remind everyone that no one is above the high table. Meanwhile, the tracker met with Marquis and desired a $25 million fee to track down John. After a tumultuous negotiation, Marquis reached an agreement for $23 million. John then meets Winston at Sharon's gravesite. Winston informs John that the only way to gain his freedom is to defeat Marquis in duel combat. Winston adds that John's family sits at the high table, and if they issue the challenge, Marquis must accept it. John stated that he did not have a family because Roma had forfeited his ticket. Winston advised John to make amends with his family before leaving. John immediately travels to Berlin to have a chat with Roma. As John entered the chapel, the priest greeted him cheerfully with a shotgun round. The tracker traced John in Berlin and called Marquis to collect the rewards. Marquis reminded him that by knocking out John, he would make $23 million, or if he failed to do it, then they would execute the tracker. Inside the chapel, Katya informed John that her father, Pyotr, was killed by order of the High Table as a consequence of John's actions against the Elder. Furthermore, the person named Killa, who murdered her father, forced her to kneel before him and split the majority of their territory with him. John declares they both have an adversary and threatens to murder Marquis in duel combat if she endorses this challenge. Katya stated that if he executed Killa, she would mend his ticket to family and issue the challenge. John accepts the offer and asks for assistance getting into Killa's mansion. In response, Katya instructs Klaus to assist John. As a gift from Katya, Klaus brought John to Killa in captivity. Killa informed John that these two individuals, Kane and the tracker, are also looking forward to getting rid of him. On the other hand, John said he came here to dispose of him. While discussing, John sees an opportunity and strikes Killa and his bodyguards. Meanwhile, Kane and the tracker also dismantled some of Killa's bodyguards. Killa runs away to save his life, and Baba Yaga follows to hunt him down. While in pursuit, John is confronted by Killa's goons. Nonetheless, John effortlessly defeats them. John eventually apprehended the Killa and skillfully dispatched him. He then knocks out Killa's gold tooth and heads back to the chapel to hand over the gold tooth to Katya. Upon receiving the evidence of Killa's passing, they promptly proceeded to fulfill the end of the contract. Winston enthusiastically visited the Marquis and formally gave him the duel notice.
And what exactly are Mr. Wicks's terms?
If John prevails, he will be liberated as per the terms and conditions, Winston's excommunicado will be lifted, his title will be reinstated, and the hotel will have to be rebuilt at the expense of the High Table. Marquis reminds Winston that this is a one-way road without a U-turn. Either he walks out a champion or is buried beside John. The following day, they met to choose the duel's venue and equipment. The duel fight will take place at sunrise in Sacré-Cœur, Paris, using firearms. Marquis nominated Kane for the duel since it's under the rule, so no one objected. Harbinger warns them that there will be an automatic forfeiture and immediate execution if any parties do not appear by the deadline.
Best find safe harbor before it starts.
Once they left, Kane said he wouldn't participate in this battle. Marquis reminded him that his daughter would face the consequences if he refused. However, if he won, he and his daughter would be free. Kane then met John at the church and told him that his daughter's life was at stake, and he had no choice. On the other hand, Harbinger warned Marquis that if John got the victory, failure would shake the foundation of the High Table. However, Marquis assures him that there is nothing to worry about. As a result, Marquis told Chitty that John shouldn't make it by sunrise for the duel. Chitty understood what Marquis meant and got out with his goons to hunt John. That night, John meets with Winston and Bowery King at a subway station, where Bowery King hands him a gun and a custom-fitted tailor bulletproof suit.
Man has to look his best when it's time to get married or buried.
Meanwhile, the bounty has raised from $20 million to $26 million. The city's thugs are informed explicitly by a radio RJ that there is a bounty for anyone who takes out John before dawn. Upon hearing this, every goon in the city started looking for John to earn the bounty on John's head. Following that, Winston and Bowery King accompany John on a boat excursion to deliver him near the venue. As John heads out of the subway, the RJ alerts everyone of John's current location. Soon, an army of assassins ambushes John on the street. Multiple shots are fired in the middle of the street, and the attacker tries to smash John through the cars. After efficiently disposing of them, John snatched a car and swiftly fled. In the meantime, the RJ kept updating everyone on John's whereabouts through the radio announcement. As a result, John couldn't go far. Chitty and his crew encountered John in the middle of traffic. They have cornered John in an under-construction building. While John was trying to cope with them, the tracker appeared and took out some mobsters. The purpose of this kindness was not to help John, but to eliminate the competition and increase the bounty, so he called Marquis and demanded $40 million to finish John. Since the time is cutting short, Marquis has no choice but to consent to his demands. The tracker attempted to eliminate John instantly because the offer sounded appealing while John was busy neutralizing enemies. After a struggle, John held the tracker at gunpoint. In the meantime, Chitty emerged and attempted to harm the tracker's dog. John saves the dog rather than killing the tracker, which surprises him. After battling several mobsters, John ascended the stairs and moved in the direction of his goal. At that point, Chitty appeared and shoved him down to the first step. In the meantime, Kane emerges and assists John in arriving at his destination by disposing of the goon jointly. The tracker purposefully disposed of Chitty because he attempted to harm his dog. John and Kane eventually arrive at their location before dawn. They handed Kane and John guns for a duel fighting match. During the first and second rounds, they both shoot each other but survive. However, in the third round, John did not shoot, but Kane did, and John was seriously injured. When Marquis saw John's poor condition, he seized over and claimed to play the final round. Kane asks Marquis if he and his daughter are free, and Marquis agrees. When Marquis was about to shoot, Winston interrupted and informed him that John had not shot. Upon hearing this horrible news, Marquis' face turned yellow, and John promptly put a bullet in his head. Harbinger declared John and Kane free upon John's victory and fulfilled Winston's all demands.
Our business here now is concluded.
John then steps down and thinks about his loving wife, Helen, before collapsing. John was buried next to his beloved wife, Helen. Winston and Bowery King paid their respect to John's tomb. On the other side, Kane travels to Paris to reconcile with his daughter but is confronted by the enraged Akira, who approaches him while holding a knife. So that was John Wick's chapters 3 and 4. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and turn on the notification so you won't miss the following recap. Until then, cheers!